Hello students, welcome to Moral Science class. This is chapter 10, Work is Worship, Value, Dignity of Labor. So here work is worship is a proverb that refers to the importance and value of work in our life. In this proverb, an honest work is said to that it is worship because it is our honest work only which satisfies our all needs and takes us to the heights of success. So let us see this chapter. No work is small, but there are some people who are ashamed of doing a specific work. They think that it is below their dignity to do that work. Some people avoid doing certain types of jobs like sweeping, washing clothes, cleaning toilets and drains, gardening, etc. They think that these jobs are disgraceful and they will harm their dignity. They do not understand that there is nothing wrong in doing any work. Such people cannot become independent. They have to depend on others all through their lives. So, students, it is saying correct that many of us avoid to do certain kinds of job like cleaning job, sweeping job, cleaning toilet drains, gardening. So such kind of job we try to avoid because we think that such if we do such type of job, so it will degrade our dignity. So such type of people who feel ashamed of doing these kinds of job, so they will have to depend on others only because many times if we have to do such kind of work, so we have to depend on others. The word labor generally refers to manual work or labor or work that is done with the hands. It is different from mental work because in mental work there is more use of mind and very less use of hands. In ancient times, manual labor was considered below standard. Manual laborers were treated as inferior beings. Even during Greek civilization, it was disgraceful for a person to become a mason, a carpenter, or mechanic. Thus, a laborer was a victim of mockery and hatred. So here it is saying that this type of mentality is coming right from the civilization, like Greek civilization, where manual laborers were treated as inferior ones because people tends to appreciate only mind work, not manual work. Manual work means doing certain kind of physical work. Dignity of labor means that every kind of work is good. It also implies that hard work done by a person increases his dignity. God Himself ordered man to work and work hard. All famous personalities of the world have acted in accordance with this dictate of God. So here it is saying that God Himself has made us all so that we can work hard and hard. So all famous personalities in this world just followed this dictate of God and they work hard and hard, more and more hard work. In this modern world, labor and to manual labor is no more considered inferior. People have realized the value of labor. No stigma is attached to a person who does manual labor. It is still the leisured class that avoids manual labor. Business tycoons realize the importance of money only and do not realize about dignity of labor. So in modern world means in present time people have now realized about this that any kind of work is good, no work is bad. So does manual labor also. So here is a short story. So this short story is about a person that is laborious Ravi. So let us see this story. Kantilal was a rich cloth merchant in North Bengal. He had a lot of wealth and lived in a big house. He had two sons, Ravi and Suresh. Suresh was his elder son. He was very lazy. His younger son, Ravi, was only a teenager, but he was very hardworking. So it is a story about one person, Kantilal, who was very rich cloth merchant in North Bengal. He had two sons. Their names were Ravi and Suresh. So Suresh was his elder son, and he was very lazy person. But his younger son Ravi was a teenager, and he was very hardworking. Kantilal always thought who would continue his business after his death. Thinking all these things, one day he passed away in his sleep. Now Suresh became more carefree. He began to spend money more lavishly, but Ravi, on the other hand, was very intelligent. Every day after school, after completing his homework, he would go to Gangu's workshop. Gangu was a potter. He used to make beautiful pots and utensils. Ravi would curiously watch him working on the potter's wheel. Ravi saw how Gangu moved his fingers and thumbs to give shape to pots. One day Gangu saw him and asked, "Son, you come here every day and watch me making pots. Do you want to learn this art?" So in this paragraph, it is saying about that Kantilal was very anguished about that who will do his work after his death. So thinking all these things, one day Kantilal passed away in his sleep. So after that, his elder son Suresh became more carefree, but Ravi, on the other hand, continued his hard labor. He used to visit one Gangu's workshop where he saw regularly how Gangu was there making earthen pots. So one day Gangu saw him and asked whether he Ravi wants to learn this art of pot making or not. So yes, Ravi nodded his head. Gangu was glad to teach him. Now every day Ravi went to Gangu's shop to learn pottery. So Ravi began to learn the art of pottery. So one day Suresh saw Ravi working with the potter. He felt very insulted and scolded him. "Ravi, aren't you ashamed of doing such a disgraceful work?" At this Ravi replied, "Brother, to me no work is small as long as you do it honestly. Maybe one day this will be beneficial for you too." So one day when Ravi was working with the potter, so his elder brother Suresh saw him, and then he scolded him that why are you doing such disgraceful work? So after listening this, Ravi replied to his brother that no work is bad, brother. Maybe this will be beneficial for us one day. A few years later, Ravi became a perfectionist in the field of pottery. His handmade utensils and potteries fetched a very good price as they were bought by the rich and famous people in and around his place. So after doing this work, Ravi became famous for this his work and his handmade pot. utensils were bought by rich and famous persons living nearby to his place. Soon the fate of the two brothers changed. One day a big fire broke out in Suresh godown. All the clothes, raw materials and everything got burnt. He lost everything that he had. He went to Ravi and said, Brother, what will I do now? I have lost everything in fire. How will I earn my living? I don't even know any other work. At this Ravi said, Don't worry, big brother, I'm here. I'll help you. I'll teach you the art of pot making. So one day, fire broke out in Suresh godown where all his cloth and raw materials burnt. So he lost everything in that fire. Then he came to his younger brother Ravi and asked him what to do because he di- uh, does not know any other kind of art. So after listening this, Ravi said him, "Don't worry, brother. I will help you and I'll teach you how to make earthen pots." So Suresh also began to learn pot making. He worked hard and soon he too became an expert pot maker. He opened his own shop and appointed many potters in his shop. Seeking forgiveness from Ravi, he said, Now I understand dignity of labor. So Suresh also started to learn pot making and he too become an expert. So he asked his forgiveness to his younger brother Ravi. So children, work is work. It cannot be classified as superior or inferior. It is absolutely irrational to label any work as high or low. The work itself is a dignity. Every work has some dignity attached to it. It is wrong for anybody to think that certain kind of work is undignified or below his status. No work is mean or low. So a work has its own dignity, no matter whatever the work is. It is also believed that work is worship, so there is no reason to be ashamed of any work. In fact, one should be proud of his work. It makes a man independent and successful in life. All successful people love work and it is the secret of their success. So here it is saying that all kinds of work are same, means there is no category whether this work is superior and this work is inferior. It is irrational to label such kind of thing to any kind of work because all successful people love to work any kind of work there, and this is actual secret of their success. Every work is respectable, dignified, and important. There is nothing wrong in the nature of any work. What is important is how one looks at it and does it. A dignified work also becomes undignified if it is done in a wrong way or by any unfair means. Work, whatever its kind may be, if it is an honest work, it is worthy of praise and credit. Manual work is in no way inferior to mental work. We must not forget that monuments, forts, historical buildings were built by persons who were perfect in manual labor. They worked miracles with their hands. When mind and hands combine together, the results are really remarkable. A sculptor's mind produces ideas and his hands convert those ideas into fine and remarkable pieces of art. So, manual work is no inferior to mental work because manual and mental work both combine together to produce a remarkable results. If we look at other nations of the world, we find that countries which have showed an aversion to manual labor have remained undeveloped and poor, whereas countries where people proudly do manual work have made impressive progress. Discrimination of manual labor brings misery, poverty, and backwardness. India's progress has greatly suffered a retardation because of this mentality. Wealth, happiness, and progress of a country depends on its citizens' attitude towards one another. So, the success or the progress of any nation also depends upon uh, the people mentality there towards any kind of work. If they are willing to do any kind of work, if they are not ashamed of their uh, the work they are doing, so automatically nation will be on path of progress. Look at Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation. He used to weave his clothes and wash them. He used to wash his own utensils and plates. He cleaned his room and even cleaned his own toilet. He asked all his followers to do the same. In this way, he taught us about dignity of labor. Abraham Lincoln, the former American president, was always ready to do his own work. He never longed for assistance of anyone for his own needs. He even polished his shoes. When a foreign dignitary entered his chamber, he was amazed. He asked, "How can you polish your own shoes?" At this, President replied, "Why don't you wear polished shoes?" The dignitary understood and felt ashamed. He quietly left the place. So here you can see example of Mahatma Gandhi and of course Abraham Lincoln. So both were very successful in their life, and the common thing here you can see that both were doing his their own work. They were not dependent on others for their own work. In India, still there is a very wrong notion that labor or manual work is not meant for urban, educated, rich and intellectual people. It is meant only for rural, uneducated and poor people. This false notion is deeply rooted among the urban elite. Then they think that manual work is poor man's means of earning livelihood. They are so much influenced by this false notion that they shun manual work. This false notion has resulted in a man-made distinction between one kind of work and another. The aversion of manual labor has caused a great harm to our country. This has created an artificial division in the society. So in India, there is artificial division in society based on manual and mental work. Here, people doing mental work consider manual work as inferior ones. So, this has divided our society into two parts. So, this is actual harming our progress of our country. So, we must learn that honest work of all types is dignified and deserves respect. Even the humble sweeper who does unpleasant task deserves respect from the society. Work is worship and work is the real prayer that we can offer to our Creator. We must salute this honest laborer and give him his due honor. Those who are engaged in manual labor should not feel any inferiority complex. They should be devoted toward their work and have faith in sacredness of their work. People who have the feeling of discrimination must give up this false notion and should inculcate themselves the idea of dignity of labor. By doing so, they will serve themselves, their society, and their country. So, students, whenever we are doing manual labor or any kind of mental labor, so while doing manual labor there should be no any kind of inferiority complex. that this work does not belongs to us, because every work or every kind of work that we do is sacred. So whatever we are doing, we must be proud of it. There should be no false perceiveness or notion in our mind that leads us to inferiority complex regarding the manual labor if we are doing. And moral of the story is no work is low. Every small work also has some dignity of its own. So no work is bad to do. Every work has got its own importance. So we should be proud of what we are doing. There is always dignity of its own for every small work. So that's all students for this chapter. Thank you all.